Hi, I just want to share a bird language story that happened to me here in this desert. I was walking in the mountains there behind our house, and I was on my fourth morning of a trip that I did alone. I was really just wandering with a very light bag. I had a sleeping bag, some burritos, 1 liter of water, and a filter. I knew where all the springs were, so I didn't need to bring a lot of water. It could just flow from water to water, water source to water source. And so on this fourth morning, I had an intention the whole trip of really practicing my skills of having a low profile and trying to not make concentric rings of disturbance as I moved around. And so some of the things I was doing was to have a heart full of love and appreciation for the land I was in, which wasn't hard because that's how I feel. And I was doing a lot of slow movement and sitting and just being. So this morning I woke up and I enjoyed the dawn chorus and watched the sun and the light take over the land. I packed my few things and I started to move around the camp that I was in real slowly, just kind of exploring. And by then the birds were starting to eat and chatter, and I walked toward a bush where there were some birds, maybe 5, a couple feet above the ground in the bush, just moving around, talking, doing their thing. And I thought I was going pretty well. They seemed really quiet and calm. And then suddenly all the birds flew off the bush and flew up and away, up towards my face and over my head and away from the arroyo. I thought, oh no, my bird language skills, I just scared the birds. I didn't tomar cuidado. I must have really messed this one up. So I felt a little bit bad about that. And I started to walk down toward the arroyo, and my fox walking and owl eyes just kept continuing. And as I neared the arroyo, all of a sudden, 3 cows came moving really fast for the desert. They were moving down up the arroyo, upstream. And they came towards me, and then they went away from me, continued on their way, and I thought, oh no, I scared the birds, I scared the cows, I really messed this up. I'll have to keep practicing a lot. Let me practice right now. So I continued to practice going down the arroyo, and I thanked the cows and the birds for the lesson, and I continued on my way downstream towards the spring, which was about a quarter mile away. And as I approached it, I started to hear something that was really strange to hear because I'd been in silence for 4 days. And I heard the sound of men talking, and I heard the sound of horses' hoofs. And by now I was right next to the water. It was about 8 feet from me on my left side, and I was on the edge of the arroyo on my right side. And I was so frightened by the sound of the human voices. I just was so startled that I immediately tried to jump into the bushes. And I looked quickly, no rattlesnakes, no cat claws, sharp things. Let me jump in. And I started to move into the bushes, and then I had a really bad feeling that these men probably had guns. And I thought, if they have guns, they might see the movement, they won't know I'm a person, and they could shoot me. I better be careful. I better just stay out here and say hello, and it's going to be okay. So I just stood my ground right where I was, and I saw the men coming, and I saw the horses, and they walked toward me, and they started to pass me. I felt the first horse's face go by me, and then I felt the leg of the horse, and then I saw the leg of the first man, and all of a sudden I just blurted out, "Buenos dias," because I think I thought somebody had to say something. And at that moment I realized my mistake. They hadn't noticed me. The 2 men jumped on their horses. They just went, woo! And they went, "Buenos dias." And they did have guns in their hands. And all confused, everybody was kind of shocked, and I said, "Well, how are you? ¿Cómo le va?" And they said, "Good, how are you? ¿Cómo le va?" And I said I was good, and they asked if I had seen any vacas, any cows that had gone up the arroyo, and I told them I had seen 3 cows and about 20 minutes ago. And the men continued on their way. And I sat down in that spring and under those trees, and I thought about it, and I realized that, it really is true. I had all these signals a quarter mile before the men came, telling me that they were coming, and I just didn't read them. And I'm so thankful to the birds, the cows, and all of the land for sharing this lesson with me. And I also learned that my invisibility was greater than my awareness. I hope you enjoyed that story. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye to the king. Bye-bye. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.